Pastor Ken. Thank you for your little note today. I live in another universe. Numbers don't get caught up with me. The one thing I want to repeat to you is that I'm excessively opinionated, but I have no idea if any of those opinions are right because I just don't believe in absolute truth. I think it's all relative actually to the moving of whatever the gods have for our individual DNA. That's why obedience, I think, surpasses everything, because the gods ask some amazing, bizarre things. But anyway, I live in my own universe, so I don't know what is right or wrong. But numbers always intrigue me. I tell the joke, I fell asleep reading the book of Numbers. And then, of course, I told people, this is 25 years ago. They said, how do I get a hold of you? I said, check the biblical yellow pages. The book of Numbers. Anyway, you texted me today at 4:55, and you were saying basically thanks for the birthday wish. And my birthday is 4:55, or fourth day of April, which is the fourth month, 1955. So that was striking to me, as if this matters. Now, there was so much to bubble up. I've determined to be excessively, I want to be filtered with you a lot, but you're so sensitive, you don't need much. So I'm trying to anyway, with that being said, I was so tormented today, Pastor. I can't go into the insanity and the badness. As I listened to your church service live, and then just basically re-listened to it, and I really caught some of these things I'm going to share with you during those last two, and I listened to it again, and it's astounding. I've told you before, if I have a life verse, it's Ephesians 6:12. And I can only describe the peace that you talk about and share from your understanding of Scripture, that the combination of the second, it's not Scripture per se, but God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, which is total resolve. I notice you have Purim coming up in the book of Esther. If I perish, I perish. I think she said that. I could be wrong, but I know it's in there. There's always the underneath the ocean of willingness to do whatever God says, believing that, well, in those cases, they have to believe that they'll be delivered, because God said that they would. So, but, this was direct. This was as direct as it comes. There was no doubting any of this. It was boom, for that situation. And I'm a real firm believer in that, of contextual comprehension of what was God doing at that moment with this person specifically? Boom, 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 boom. Besides the collective, what's he doing now with Israel? As you pointed out, you know, the history of Israel is God takes us out of idolatry and we just yo-yo back and forth, back and forth. One of my deepest beliefs is that when you see God's condemnation over and over and over again, judgment over and over again with the Israelites, my understanding is that it wasn't really the idolatry and that I'm a jealous God. What happened is they sold out to whatever that golden calf of they completely assimilated, and what they lost because there was always a monetary reason for them to do this, and they lost what God always said you gotta do. Help the downtrodden. Don't worry about assimilating. If you're going to assimilate, help, love, love, help. And in that desire, they also realize you just don't mess around with God. But it would always be more sacrificial for them to be radical about compassion. And when Jesus came along, the Jews that don't believe what you believe still believe. He was like all the prophets. The prophets were always rebuking. The rebuking had to do that their hearts had hardened. They were not caring anymore. They were kind of like, my mind, it gets weird, but I noticed that the three armies that were coming in 2 Chronicles 4, 1 through 20, I believe it was, that their third name, that whatever it was, the Buzizites and the Kuzizites, and then it was, but the way it's spelled is M-E, unites. And that's what it was. It was a selfish me. And the God never wanted that. He says you're going to have a harder road, but it'll be the road of love and compassion. They lost that under the guise of self-survival and blah, blah. Which brings me to another thought. You stirred a lot of things. Now, this is something I've been toying with a lot, Pastor. But I'm starting to think more and more and more that this element of pacifism, which would be the ultimate turning the other cheek, which would be, being led to the slaughter, giving up your rights, that many of these times that of great faith, I think what is below the surface of that ocean of this faith that you can see, when people say I'm trusting in God, that underneath there is a resolve, like you brought up Paul, praising and just worshiping, and and he was just willing to die. It's okay. I die, I don't die. So this dying thing was so out of the issue. I don't know how they worked through pain. I hate pain. Any pain. But maybe in being caught up in that moment of being in a different frequency, and I know I'm zipping all over like radio changing, but that's my allegory. you have mastered, or I'm sure you are ahead of a lot of people I know, of earth dwellers, most, because you're not a liar. And although you will do everything you can to stay positive, you're the first one to cry and feel the pain. And that's a frequency. That's living in the eye of the hurricane. That's that old story about what makes an eagle and a dodo bird, which is really I forget, there's another word. There's more. But anyway, the eagle flies above the storm and looks down on it, and the dodo bird flies in it. I am definitely Dudley Dodo. Anyway, I know where I know. One of the reasons I think I'm slip sliding away is I can't get the bone out of my throat, Pastor, about selective grace. I listen to all this, and when you're thinking in the element of personal DNA, God has a direct plan for everyone, whether they're aware of it or not. Um, the element of, again, this, like, well, thy will be done. You know, Jesus in Gethsemane. If I perish, I perish. So there's such a base there that's just willing to go, hey, I'll do whatever God wants. Uh, uh, God made me. If it's time for me to die, I die. So I think there's an element of that then, because you, I don't believe you can put God in a genie bottle, and even though you can create a theology around knowing that God is more than capable, but again, it comes back to selective grace. If God be for me, and I know another problem is the reason I have a problem with selective grace is that I really do believe, Pastor, that those that would be saved were the issue is there is still a clubhouse mentality with God, the Israelites, and of course if you go to other religions, I don't want to go there. The issue is and now the Christians are the new, they're the new, like Abraham was called out of idolatry. Now the Gentiles and all of that in Romans, and that I can't believe it's 13 minutes. I'm just rambling. This is like I usually just come in and go from point to point, Wow. Thank you for listening. So, I don't think you can put God in a genie bottle and go, I don't think you do that, even though you can say, you can string all these scriptures together and go, wow. But at the same time, I don't doubt it for you, because you are of this select grace. And I guess within that context, but I just know that when you see, like when God is, it's so specific, But, so anyway, I can't get in that frequency that you're in. And it's because of Ephesians 6:12, Pastor. Because the first two times I tried to listen today, you just have no idea. If I literally was an animal trying, whatever, to pay attention to something. Many beings were rattling my cage. I was enraged. Most people listen to a church service and they calm down. But anyway, I know I'm dark. But nevertheless, that makes it hard. And I'm mad at God because this selective grace. I'm mad at God. Why do you have to have suffering? See, if I would just submit to the fact the poor shall always be with you, and in the world you shall have tribulation, I might be okay. I mean, in the sense of being able to settle down. But it doesn't do me any good to know that the Megadites and the Zigadites and the Israelites always have enemies, and God's either killing them, the enemies, because they, ha ha ha, or now he's letting the enemies get the Israelites because of ha ha ha. Like that's constant battling. Pastor, I took a shower today, and I took one a few days ago. I was shocked I took one today because the last shower I took was 3 weeks ago, probably. I'm afraid. I don't have a curtain on my shower curtain. I'm nuts. I can't imagine being born in a war zone, and this is the harder side of God that I don't like. God, can't you just make it nice? What are all the... I can't settle into this. It's not a matter I don't understand it. I understand it. He just, history, his story. Holy gabba zip. War, more war, more war. Fight, clans, bah. And God sanctions it and creates it and does it. This is not kumbaya. So the kumbaya is being in that frequency. Can't get in the frequency. Anyway, there's nothing. I don't think I was going to say much of anything I said. So I hope you had time to listen to this because, wow, this is what we and I were just sitting and on a curb. This is what you'd be listening to. But I trust you, Pastor. You are beautiful. I like the fact you went. I'm going to try not to, otherwise this response would be longer than your entire church service. But I love the fact that you went into 3 different scriptures. I just loved it. You're a great teacher. And I just want to commend you for your transparency. That's all. I had no idea about Tiffany. None. Zip, pogadoo. It's heavy stuff, son. Just becoming this pastor for the first time. It's not like you went to seminary that I know of, like that wasn't your life's thought. I think the fact you went from social worker to pastor was not a stretch. You definitely emulate the attribute of God of all comfort. I listened to Michael W. Smith. I was really moved by that song, by the way. And that's the concept. I don't know how I can be close to God. I'm mad at God. I know it's ridiculous, but God raises all kinds of things up for his ultimate purposes, so I don't know what the zippity do I am. But I don't want violence. I don't want all this. Can we have a happy world? But anyway, if within the contents of selective grace, and God is for you. It is astounding how encouraging this message is. All the walls are caving in. So what? Three armies. And listen, I'm paranoid schizophrenic. I don't mean to tie that ever into religion. But the concept, I live in a lot of frequencies. So, I think I've been through this before. If I ask you I learned this from Dr. Patch Adams, who was in his movie, the movie about him that Robin Williams played. But, anyway, what do you see? And you'll go, well, I see four fingers. I said, no, look deeper. What do you see? You see me. And so the issue is that the element of frequencies is knee jerk in my whole, when I look back on my entire existence on this earth. And I never ever shied away from religion or faith or anything. I noticed in the translation, Abraham, friend of God. That's groovy. But anyway, God is too harsh. But anyway, I went off. This is conjecture of everything. Lots of questions. But I was thinking about the concept of this praising, and you start with the musicians. By the way, I wanted to tell you another thing about you that reminded me of, oh gosh, that's bad. Don't be mad at me. This king that you mentioned was a really good king, 35 to 60. The word that it said towards, like, when they're about ready to go in First Chronicles 4, is he consulted the people. And that's a humble spirit. He was interested in their needs and concerns. But they willingly were like, okay, what are we going to do? And they got the word of the Lord, and let's do it. Bang, bang, let's go. And, but he consulted them. And probably they were involved with, hey, yeah, put us first. That's groovy, And a great leader consults the needs of the people. The great leader takes off his, puts on his servant's clothes and washes feet. So somehow that struck me. But anyway, Pastor, it's already 22. It's going to be 23 minutes. I just, what a wonderful human you are, sticking by your wife, being a helicopter father. It's beautiful. Look what you've inspired to be a social worker and then a pastor. So you could draw closer to God, to be more effective in your administering, your sincerity. It just oozes out of you. I'm just trying to think, maybe there's a reason I'm stopping them. Anyway, I know that there was a key thing. I just thought about how that if praise is a secret lubricant, the oil of gladness in the pistons, the many of life, and you're to enter into his courts with praise. I was thinking about, how I'm a very mean person, and you don't know the seething horribleness in me. And the issue is that to be an encourager is to enter into any situation with anyone and to be a good detective and to go, hey, I might not really like you, but let me point about 6 things that you should be encouraged about. I want to praise you. So entering into all these human things, and of course I'm just thinking out loud, Pastor, because I don't get along with people. And when I used to, it was literally, I just had costumes in that sense. It's so scary. But within me, that verse, put on love, and then put on the garment of praise. That's what you brought that up. And there's another thing about this message today. Somewhere you mentioned going into the lion's den, and that's and and I'm you gave me some deep thought because God doesn't steer up our car, and even though they knew the battle was going to be won and God assured them, they still had to line up or do whatever they had to do with the and the the jars of clay, and they still had obedience in there. There was something they did, and I don't understand that either. But I was challenged about that regarding a situation that I was thinking I maybe I just need to face this fear. I don't have my therapist anymore, so things are really kakazaki dookie for me, real bad. But anyway, but it encouraged me, and then it reminded me if I told you the story, I'll end on it. If I did already, I'm sorry. But trying to be pretty focused. Before there was a Muhammad Ali, he was Cassius Clay. And he always went into the ring as if he was on the happiest courage pills in the world. He rattled everybody. He just went in like, well, I'm gonna beat you today. I'm just, I'm winning. I'm gonna, and he was just so confident, and he was just jumping up and down. He might have been a ballet dancer of just happiness, jubilee. So anyway, Howard Cosell asked Cassius Clay before he was Muhammad Ali. He was interviewed before a fight. And Howard Cosell was very close to Cassius Clay. And anyway, Howard Cosell asked like a feeling question, like a therapy question. Like America wasn't there yet. It was World War II vets that hit all their. There's no time for feelings. And then they came back, and we got to raise a family, and no time for feelings. And it was astounding that Howard Cosell said, Cassius, do you have any fear or something like that? Like, just fearless. You're really fearless. Like, you have no fear. What is this with you? And Cassius Clay came clean. And he said the following. Al, you understand? I'm probably more afraid of my opponent than he is of me. He said, but I learned the secret. You want to move so fast like lightning? Sting like a bee, all that. He said, I figured out the secret. I get in the ring 1 second faster than my enemy, my opponent. I get in that ring faster. I face my fear faster. And that's why I win. I face my fear faster. I beat him to it. Wow. So anyway, you stirred all these good things. I love you, Pastor. And listen, I just want to say that guy at the end, it was so similar to something I would do. I know me. And I just wanted to tell you, Pastor, two things from that. My heart went, I was in that man. I was just proud of him to be at church. I don't know anything about his life, but you look weathered. And I was proud of him telling a joke. I just wanted to tell him, listen, if you could have just tied it in a little bit, like just taking it a step further, like, guys, let's not get distracted. Let's remember, love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and our neighbor as ourselves. And let's not take our eye off that prize, and let's lay aside every weight of, anything that's extra. Like, let's definitely not be distracted. If he just put that little moral to the story in there, I think would have been dynamic. It was a very funny joke. I've told it, but nevertheless, uh, but Pastor, remember I said to you, I never said those words. It was my last tape. Those words never came out of my mouth before. I never thought about it. You stir deep things. When I said, Pastor, don't ever try to be funny. It's a carnal thing. It has a good result. But like here you, and you're just so wonderful. You're just beautiful, Pastor, period. But, you were like blowing the ram's horn and all of that and the depth of whatever. And, well, now you know you're back in the world. Guy's just telling a joke. And, but when you sang Michael W. Smith and you were talking about the race, this is the difference between you and I. I'm definitely Mr. Murphy Law guy. Because I really thought, first of all, I was so there. First of all, I knew you were a runner. And anyway, you just slid up. But it was funny. People were laughing with you. But see, you weren't trying to be funny. You were just being honest, like a child. Like just the way you've experienced it. And there's some comedians, that's their whole charm is they're just being honest. The way they have a different perspective on things, just a little different. And if they're not vulgar and stuff, it's charming. But when you were like, round 3, round 5, whatever, I'm going, yeah, man, we got another lap. And that's what I thought you were doing. I thought that was pretty funny. But I listened to it the second time. I said, this guy's excited. He doesn't even notice he's got another lap. Oh, boy, we're just 2 away. It's so beautiful. It was so refreshing. Because I'm thinking about, yeah, I got another lap. When do we get this over with? I got to go home and eat some lox and bagels. I'm tired. Not you. You were just anticipating what's God's going to do. Imagine us hearing that Trump bomb in our generation. That enthusiasm. Please tell Tiffany. Wow. That's all. Survived cancer and supported you in the calling on both your lives. That's monumental. Wow. That's just wow. I love you, Pastor Ken. You can respond to this ramble. You'll probably need, I don't know. It's hard to keep up with me. But I'm glad I got some of those things that I struggle with. That's what makes faith, your faith, anyone's faith, but the whole concept, a greased watermelon for me. I can't get a handle on it. And ultimately it's because I myself, like a double-minded man, is unstable in all his ways. Pastor, I'm seriously mentally ill. If there was a hidden camera in here and you watched me for a week, I think you'd just get on your knees and cry a lot. Because you wouldn't be mad at my blasphemy. You would have a pity. You'd separate the egg and the yolk, the tortured from what's torturing. I love you for that, Pastor. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to listen to that 25-minute, you've totally inspired it. It's what I aspire to be. It doesn't matter. I desire at least to be the work boots of Jesus. And yet I sit in utter fear from so much torment that I won't go out unless it's after dark most of the time. It's crazy. All right, Ramble Man. Oh, one little P.S. Now, this is a snob statement. Herman and I are jazz heads, and I'm really a sophomore. This man grew up in the jazz clubs, and anyway, jazz really is its own frequency. So I was cracking up when you said, you know, the horn is in the brass section of the orchestra. I said, I gotta take this guy to. I won't even leave where I live. But if this is 20 years ago and you were willing to go, I'd take you to Harlem. I'd go to 3 different jazz clubs. You'd hear what some people can do with that horn. More than that. I thought I'd freak you out if I sent you Miles Davis, some of his early stuff. But anyway, it just cracked me up. And I guess the last bizarreness, please don't read too much into my muddying of this mosaic perplexity of who I am. But I'm sure you put no stock in it at all, and I'm not looking for you to. But in my little world, I'm an Aries. I am April 4th. And I really am, and my last name is Horn, Horn. So anytime, I've always, like, a lot, anytime I see the Rams horn, I got something to do. But unfortunate, I'm the ram that just runs right to the top of the mountain. I can't get down. I don't know what to do. Anyway, so I wouldn't be playing me. I mean, I can. Got some snozzle going on here, so, ram's horn. Anyway, all right. I love you, Pastor. I am so grateful to have someone I trust with my darkness that sees it the way I do. Because my therapists don't. I'll never forget, Sandy was a very good therapist, but I remember I just shock him right off the bat, so I just try to let him get it. I said, listen, there's only 2 schools of basic thought when it comes to just my specific diagnosis. One is, the extreme of one is all genetic. And those are the ones who are prescribing endless amounts of drugs because they believe it's all chemical. We can straighten out the chemical and kind of give him a little bit of therapy, but the therapy's not going to do anything. You got to straighten out his chemicals. And then the pure therapists believe just the opposite. They believe my chemicals have been jolted and mixed up because of abuse and trauma and whatever. And I remember to tell Sandy directly, I said, Sandy, before we get started, I don't believe either of those. I just want you to know. I absolutely am convinced this is all spiritual. I don't know where I came from. I don't know where I'm going when I die, and I'm not talking about religion and security of what a religion does. I don't know. I'm scared of God. Look at the earth that God has. Look at all this boom. I said, but my problem is spiritual. I have too many entities. So you say I'm paranoid schizophrenic because I act many different beings. I just said, listen, you have guys use a rental car in a day. One is an elderly gentleman who's in the right lane. And then you have a couple of mothers with their children. They're cautious, but they gotta be somewhere. They're in the middle lane. And then you get two maniacs that they've got to get so much done in that limited amount of time. And they're just riding the cars and in the left lane. Car's neutral. Cars just being driven by different entities. So, wow, 40 minutes. I love you, Pastor. I don't know any value to any of this for you. But if you ever hear this and listen to it, I will welcome every response. Anyway, humongous hugs to you and to Tiffany. And to Tiffany. Wow. Wow. She took a mess and now carries a message. I love your little quirks. They're good. They help people like me remember them. All right. All right. Seeing that guy left with a joke. This has no value to it. I believe you. It's not that you'll hate it, but it has no value. I didn't do too well in sports. You got to watch what you tell your children. My Jewish mother always said, "You're not on the ball." That's a problem if you're going to be in sports. So, anyway, around 14 years of age, a couple of the kids, it's in the playground, hangout area, start talking about, hey, Sunday, the Super Bowl. Yeah, wow, the Super Bowl. I said, wow, that sounds really exciting. I love smoking weed. You mean now these pipes come in a bigger bowl? Hey, I'll be here on Sunday. The Super Bowl. All right. All right, I know you didn't like it. Anyway, I love you. Thank you for being a very present help in my time of trouble, Pastor Ken. Thank you. Have a beautiful night. I don't know what time it is, but I will send this tomorrow. It's Sunday night. All right.